Hey folks, this is Kalani. Patch 10.05 is almost here, just a few more days to wait, but that doesn't stop the dev team from cramming in some last minute class changes. We've got some pretty significant buffs and nerfs coming that were just announced, so they're really trying to squeak these ones in. Quite a few classes who didn't yet receive any changes are getting some love, there are a lot of buffs to talk about and a few nerfs to the classes currently on top. We also have some more info about how we will earn catalyst charges in the new patch, and there's even a change for the thundering affix. So let's break it all down and see who is getting buffed and nerfed at the very last minute before patch 10.0.5 goes live. Now before we jump in, be sure to hit up that like button and subscribe so you never miss another video. Let's start by going over these last minute class changes for patch 10.05 because some classes that didn't really receive anything up until now have quite a few buffs or nerfs, but then there are actually some pretty big buffs and nerfs for classes that already got a lot of changes, so there's quite a bit to go through, and I'm actually really surprised we have this many changes being left until the very last second here. To start with, balanced druids are getting some bug fixes, and some of their changed damage has been reined in slightly. I guess the new lunar eclipse was doing a bit too much damage in AoE situations because that's getting knocked down to a 30% bonus, down from a 50% bonus. We'll have to wait and see how the dust settles because balance is getting a lot of changes in general for the patch as a whole. And then resto druids will see quite a few nerfs. Verdancy healing reduced by 10%, adaptive swarm periodic effect bonus was nerfed, and the damage and healing were nerfed too. But on the flip side, dream state was buffed to reduce cooldowns by 20 seconds up from 15. The dev notes here say they wanted to nerf resto druids in dungeons more or less, but tried to keep their raid performance stable. Mages are coming in here with some very simple buffs, a 5% damage increase to all abilities across the board for both fire and frost. I guess the gap between those two specs in arcane is still just a little too wide, so 5% will hopefully give them a bit more kick. For the monks, there is a quick change to Lesson of Despair for Mistweaver to allow you to benefit from it way more often, but that is all I'm afraid. For the paladins, Holy is going to see a small buff to Barrier of Faith, but just like the monks, that's all they're getting in this quick round of changes. Priests are going to see a few more changes, however. Specifically for the disc spec, we've got big buffs to most of their key kit. Flash Heal up by 25%, Renew up by 25%, Radiance up by 100%, but Ultimate Radiance won't be quite as impactful. Sins of the Many was also buffed, and then the only nerf in here seems to be for Divine Aegis, but for the most part these should be some good buffs for Disc Priest. It might still not be enough to get them back into the cool healer gang, but every little helps. Rogues only have a few quick changes to Outlaw, and they are both nerfs for survivability. Combat Stamina was nerfed down to a 5% bonus, so half the health bonus as before, and then the newly added Killing Spree damage reduction effect has been reduced down to 35% from 65%. That did seem like a hefty damage mitigation bonus, so I'm not surprised to see that reduced. Shamans are actually getting some changes now, fancy that! Healing Surge has been buffed, Mana Spring has been doubled, and Totemic Surge has also been buffed slightly. For elementals specifically, Flame Shock, Chain Lightning, Lava Beam and Earthquake damage have all been increased by 10%, and then for resto, Healing Wave has been buffed, Acid Rain has been massively buffed, Flame Shock was increased by 20%, Lava Burst was increased by 20%, and Master of the Elements was doubled in effectiveness, so Shamans are actually getting some pretty nice buffs as we head into patch 10.05. Warlocks have some quick changes too. For Affliction, Harvester of Souls damage was increased by 25%, and then for Demonology, Reign of Tyranny has been buffed to help demo in single target encounters. And then last but not least, we come to the Warriors. Both Arms and Fury are getting a lot of damage buffs here. We've got increases for Thunderclap, Cleave, Whirlwind, Bladestorm and Rend for Arms, up to 30% increases there, and then for Fury, Raging Blow, Execute, Rampage, Annihilator, Bloodthirst and Bloodbath have all been buffed, up to 15%, so Warrior DPS should be very happy heading into the next patch. And then for protection, we will see just a few nerfs, which isn't too surprising. Brace for Impact, Brutal Vitality and Shield Specialization have all been nerfed slightly. Warriors are still dominating the tank scene, so we'll have to see if this is enough to knock them down at least one peg. Now remember, these changes will go live with patch 10.0.5, which launches on January 23rd, so that's its very next reset. It's just a few days away at this point, so whether you're getting buffed, nerfed, or receiving some larger changes to how your class works or your talent tree looks, we don't have too much longer to wait for all of these changes to come through. Moving on, another very important feature coming in patch 10.05 is the Revival Catalyst. This allows you to turn non-tier set gear pieces into tier set pieces to let you collect the entire 4 set and its associated bonus without ever having to step foot into the raid. Well, the Catalyst was actually just enabled on the PTR, I guess to give us a few days of testing it before the patch actually goes live. They're cutting it close here for sure, but this does give us a better idea of how all of this is going to work on Tuesday. So to enable the Catalyst, you're going to have to do a very short introduction questline that starts at Watcher Koronos up on the top of the Seat of the Aspects. So pop up there, grab the quest, and you can head on over to the Catalyst to get things fired up. That's it for the intro really, which is great because you can get started on that weekly quest ASAP, but if you can't get your weekly quest or interact with the Catalyst at all when the patch goes live, this is probably why. You do need to go pick up that quest to start everything off. That quest will lead you to Antuka, right next to the Catalyst, which is where we'll be picking up the weekly quest. The weekly quest is very simple, very easy, you just have to fill the bar. That's it, that's the weekly quest. So we need to get to 100% here, then we can hand it in for our weekly Catalyst charge. We don't have a confirmed complete picture of what you can do for this quest just yet. It's only been available to test for a day or so after all, but we do know that you can kill rares, you can complete world events, do dungeons, kill raid bosses, as well as win PvP matches like battlegrounds or arenas. So killing Primal Invasion rare mobs will give you 5% quest credit, so you would need 20 total kills there to complete the weekly quest, but that does seem doable across the entire week, especially when you consider anyone and everyone can get credit by just killing rares. So that's neat. Completing one of the world events, so that's the Siege on Dragonbane Keep, the Grand Hunts or Storm's Fury, that will give you 10% quest credit, so that's another good chunk of credit you can earn just by doing those events. Completing a dungeon will give you 25% credit, so that's a huge chunk if you're already running dungeons. On the PTR this is confirmed for mythic dungeons at the very least, but we're not sure what lower difficulties will give, if anything. Killing a raid boss could also give you 25%, but this one isn't yet confirmed. That honestly seems a bit high. That would mean you would complete the weekly with just half the raid, which would also make it one of the fastest ways to finish the quest. So I would not be surprised if a raid kill only gave you 10%, but we'll have to wait and see. And then winning a battleground, solo shuffle or arena match will also grant you credit, but we're not too sure how much. The current belief is 10% per win, but again, we're just going to have to wait and see on that one. The main point here is that almost no matter what kind of player you are or what content you take part in, you will have at least one option for progressing the weekly quest to earn your charges to use the Revival Catalyst. As long as you are playing a little bit, you should be able to knock out that weekly quest relatively easily. The good news here is that you only need to do the quest on one character too. When you've done it once, every character on your account will earn the charge, so once per account per week is all you ever need to do to maximize your revival charges and let all of your characters create their own tier gear to unlock those big 4-set bonuses. We'll go through everything in more detail when the Catalyst opens up to make sure no one gets left behind and everyone understands exactly how it works, so keep an eye out for that video. And then to round out this video, there's a relatively small but very impactful change happening for Mythic Plus dungeons. The seasonal affix Thundering, which will appear on any keystone at 10 or above, has been changed slightly. Now you'll always get 2 blue buffs and 3 red buffs, so that's swapped around, but the important part here is that the tank will always get a red buff. That means your DPS and healers can always clear amongst themselves, allowing your tank to completely ignore the mechanic if they so wish. This is very important for a few reasons. To start with, it removes an element of randomness from the entire mechanic. Your tank always knows what buff or debuff they will be getting, so you can better plan how you might want to clear. If you want to keep that buff on a DPS, you know it has to be a DPS with the red buff. You also know that one with the blue buff will have to then clear with the tank. It just makes it much easier to plan for. But this also means you can always safely clear the entire mechanic without moving the mobs or your tank having to run around or players having to run on top of of tanks. There are a lot of frontal abilities or cleave abilities in dungeons. In general, tanks will always keep mobs facing away from the group for safety, so having to run in that line of fire, that risky zone where only the tanks really should be, can get you killed very quickly if you try and clear on the tank at the wrong time. This might not be a huge issue for organized groups who might be in voice chat or whatever, but it is a great quality of life change for pugs. It just makes the mechanic easier to deal with when you're in a situation without that dedicated group coordination or organization, so it is a small change, but it's a very welcome one indeed. But that's the quick little update we have for patch 10.05 and those sneaky last-minute buffs and nerfs coming our way. What are you most looking forward to in patch 10.05? Do you think any spec or class still needs a lot of attention that didn't get any? If so, which one and why? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and to all of our members here on YouTube. You can see the names floating by on screen. If you'd like to add your name to the end of every video with a special shout out at the start of the next video, you can find links in the description over to Patreon or click the join button just below the video. And if you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss another video. Thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.